we're live. My God, I'm very, very tired. Been wanting to wait for Yuna to finish her live stream because there is a little bit of overlap between my subscribers and hers, and she just kept going, and it was a fun stream. It was a very entertaining stream. I liked it, but unfortunately, it's now 2 a.m. I'm very tired, but that's fine. I'll pressure on. I'll do the deed. I'll do what needs to be done. So, I do not want to play Elden Ring with anyone. I don't even enjoy playing Dark Souls games with other people because it feels like it robs you of the experience. The whole thing of Dark Souls is made so that you struggle, and then when you get past the struggle, you feel the accomplishment. But I feel like you're cheesing if you're playing with another player. Like Bloodborne, for example, right? You had easy mode if you played with someone else. Like all the journalists were complaining, oh my God, the game is so hard, it's so hard. And I was like, just summon another person then. And there are so many bosses that I just summoned someone else and I stood back and the other person just did the thing. And it really annoys me because there was this game that I really loved. I forgot the name of it. It was Dark Souls with anime waifus. Something Nexus, maybe. I don't know. But you had like vampires and stuff. And the game was balanced to be played with 2 people. So if you played it alone, it was excruciatingly hard. I mean, it was unfairly hard. It was basically just almost impossible. So you had to play it with someone else. But when you played it with someone else, it trivialized the difficulty. I really hated that aspect. Summoning friends for PvP is great. Yeah, Code Vein. Yeah, like Code Vein, but like, and it was such an awesome game. I really loved it. Like, I loved everything about it. I loved the waifus. I loved the environment. I loved the story. But unfortunately, the gameplay was the only lacking part. I did enjoy going up alone and killing monsters, but at one point of the game, it gets so ridiculously difficult because it's balanced to have 2 people playing. So yeah, I will not play Elden Ring with anyone, and I don't want to play it on stream. Man, like, I have this problem. I think it comes with age. But when I was younger, like, I would finish games. Now I just lose interest in games. So I start playing a game, and by the middle of it, I just stop. And then people go like, oh, well, they want to finish me. They want to see me finish the game, and I just can't be arsed, And people get upset. Now, if I play something like Elden Ring, which takes probably hundreds of hours to complete, I would not be able to finish that, and chat would be upset. And secondly, everyone plays Elden Ring. Like, everyone touches grass now. Everyone goes into the dungeon. And the market is super saturated. Like, I'm willing to bet if I played Elden Ring now, no one would watch. Like, I would probably have like 20, maybe 30 people watching, and that's it. Warhammer 3 is an interesting game, but it needs a lot of patches. Like, it's an unfinished product. All right. Let me hold on. You guys can see all my screen, right? I don't want you to see my messy monitor. Let me see if I can. Whoop. No, that's not how it's done. Oh, there we go. Here we go, chat. Much better. Much better. So, we need to talk about the slap. I mean, you know we're going to talk about the slap. It's what everyone talks about. I love the slap. Best entertainment which came out of the West. And there's even a video game of it. I don't know who made this, but like, look. You take the hand and look. You guys knew about this? And it also has like the ability to... I'm getting really good at this. See, this is a game that I can play on stream. It's got good gameplay. I hope We're not going to see journalists freak out about this game. There was another game I remember, but okay, like that was actually, I mean, it wasn't violent. It was a little bit more graphic, I guess. It had the Rita Sarkeesian, and you could hit her in the game, and she would get bruises and stuff, and like the journalist freaked out. But like you get these games with almost every president. Like there was one where you could beat up George Bush. There was one where you could beat up Trump. I mean, it's not whatever. Yeah. But I guess that's the thing, you know, like these games are considered violent and problematic. So when you actually do have a slap happening in real life, everyone loses their shit and everyone likes it. Even the people who don't like it, they still spread the video. They still talk about it. So Slap the Monkey. Oh my God, I remember that. Wasn't it Joe Cartoon that made it? Yeah. But that one was different because you pressed the button and the monkey got slapped itself. Holy shit, I can't keep my eyes open, chat. I'm so fucking tired. I don't know what's with me. Like, I had the good sleep last night. Why am I so... Anyway, right. Look at this joke. I mean, this is absolutely hilarious. So, Academy promises members appropriate action against Will Smith. The Film Academy president said the group leaders were upset and outraged. Yeah, I saw how upset and outraged they were when they kept on with the show. Like, if they... Look, I said this before. My university did not tolerate this shit, okay? Like, my university legitimately does not tolerate violence. So if you were to slap a professor, and by the way, that did actually happen. Like, a professor actually got punched. It was at an exam. I wasn't in there, but, like, I heard from other students because everyone was talking about it. There was this professor, which was the pathology professor. Morphopathology, and he had an exam. It was a written exam, and everyone was sitting in their desks and they were writing the answer to the questions. And there was this student who, I think he was actually an immigrant. It's not fair to say an immigrant. He was an exchange student. Yeah, that's the correct definition. He was an exchange student. And I think like he didn't even speak Romanian properly, so he goes to this exam and he tries to cheat. Now, the professor tells him, it's like, hey, stop cheating, right? Like, look at your own paper. And the guy doesn't listen, and he tries to cheat again. So the professor tells him a second time and says, if you do this again, I'm going to kick you out. And you're going to fail the exam. So, you know, he does it again the third time, and then the professor goes up and takes his paper. To which the guy punches the professor in the gut, and the professor, you know, goes like, bleh. And as he goes, bleh, his glasses fall off, and then the student punches him again. So, immediately, security was there. They take him out, and then he goes to the dean the same day. The dean asks, like, what happened, and the student goes like, oh, well, I don't remember anything. I must have snapped. Okay, I see. And I think he was exposed from the country, not literally the next day, but like 2 days after. Right, he was deported. But like my point is like the university did not tolerate violence, right? So the moment violence happened, he was removed from the premise. Like you don't allow the person doing violence to remain on the premise, which is not what happened at the Oscars, right? Like at the Oscars, the person was allowed, like Will Smith was allowed to stay after the slap. Security didn't escort him out. And not only that, but like people cheered and applauded when he went on stage. So let's cut with the bullshit that they're not standing behind. Like, no, they love the ratings, right? Because all of that is ratings. If it wasn't for this, no one would have cared about the Oscars. Like everyone talks about it. So they absolutely loved it. From what country? I think it was either Qatar or Saudi Arabia. I forgot which. But it was like a rich person anyway. Which is probably why he was so disrespectful. Like people who are wealthy, they think that they own the place. So anyway, right, everyone enjoyed it, and I'm willing to bet, you know, I am willing to bet that Chris Rock enjoyed it as well. Like, if I was a comedian, holy shit, I would pay money just to be slapped by Will Smith, because that is a career booster. Like, everyone is going to talk about you. I even forgot about Chris Rock, to be honest. I forgot that he exists, and now that I remember, oh, okay, so Chris Rock. I wouldn't have known. I would have still remained ignorant about his existence if it wasn't for this event. I didn't see what Jim Carrey said about the slap. No, I'll have to look. Jim Carrey usually has really bad takes. Last time I heard, he was for socialism. But not only that, Jim Carrey is a fucking liar, man. Like, I like his acting, but his personality is toxic as fuck. Like, for example, do you guys remember when Sonic came out and people saw the trailer and they really hated the Sonic design? So the people making the movie said, like, okay, if you guys don't like the design, that's fine. We're going to redesign it. We're going to try to do better. And Jim Carrey comes out and goes like, oh my god, like, companies shouldn't bend over to a couple of people on the internet because, like, then those people dominate you and blah, blah, blah. Like, he had a really moronic take. And after the design, like, people felt weird because it was, like, the first time that a company actually listens to the fans. So people felt like they have the need to go watch this movie now. In fact, like, I remember on Twitter, it was like, no, you need to go watch the movie because the company did so much and we need to show support. So it had really good sales. And honestly, it was also a good movie. Like, I like Sonic. It was wholesome. I can't say it was really for me, but if I was a kid, I would have definitely loved the movie. I would have thought that it's a 10 out of 10, and Jim Carrey's performance was good. But my point is, like, after the movie was successful, Jim Carrey goes like, oh yeah, this is why you should listen to the fans and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, motherfucker, that's not what you said. That's literally not what you said in the beginning. If it was up to you, you'd have let that poor, horrible design. And honestly, like, the face of Sonic and the way he looks really carried the movie. Because it's like, you want to go there and you want to see a cute hedgehog, right? Like, that's the whole point. Thank you so much for the membership, Luxan. And hopefully you're going to enjoy the channel. But right, so I haven't seen what Carrey said. It's... Yeah, Carrey can't lie. You saw a movie about it. No, but I gotta say, like, actors, I really don't like them. I don't think there's many actors that I like. It's kind of like Kings from the High Castles. I saw Uni stream, and she said the same. It's like, they are like the royalty, like the barons and the kings and the princesses and the queens from their high castles above the muck, above the peasantry, and all they do is lecture the peasantry about how to live their lives. And it's like, motherfucker, you're so secluded. You are so fucking secluded. I mean, look what happened with California. Like, in California, literally everything those actors are advocating for is being done in California now. Right? Like, oh, defund the police. Okay, they did it. Yeah. Oh, tax the rich. Okay, they did it. Like, literally every single progressive policy that you can possibly humanly imagine is in California. They even legalized the willingly... Well, not they legalized. They reduced the punishment for the willingly spread of AIDS. Like, California is so toxic that spreading AIDS to another person willingly is a misdemeanor. And what do the actors do when they finally get their wish? When all of their policies is being implemented, when they're finally allowed to have exactly what they want, what do they do? They live for Texas, they live for Florida, they live for red states. It's horrible, honestly. Like, they're the ones that can fix their community. I mean, rich people are the ones that can drive the force of change. But do they stay to fix what they fucked up? Of course not. They just move somewhere else. Why? Because they have money and they can afford it. I couldn't afford to move to another city. I literally wouldn't have the money to do it, but an actor can, right? So I really do not like actors at all. As people, okay? Like, I wouldn't want to be their friend. Well, maybe I would want to be their friends because they have money. But, like, as people, if I'm allowed not to like someone, it's like, whatever. Seen the bills. I mean, I haven't seen the bills, but I have seen some houses in California. Man, like, there was this documentary, which I think it was like 2 or 3 years old. So take into account that the price might have changed. But there was like this shack. I don't even know if I could describe it as a shack. I mean, it was a construction that had like 4 walls and a roof. Okay, because I can't call it a house. And it was around $250,000, and it was like the cheapest. And I'm like, holy shit. And that thing didn't look livable, chat. Like, it looked like if you live there, you're going to get a disease or something. It's not normal. Like, the housing bubble. Like, think about it this way. If you want to buy a house, you need to ask the question, are the people fucking? Because if the demographics are high, then yeah, houses get more expensive. But if people aren't fucking, then it doesn't make sense for housing to go more expensive. So if housing is more expensive, even though people are fucking, the politicians are to blame. They did something. They messed something up, either on purpose or on accident. Actors are literally paid to lie. Yeah, I think actors are acting even when they're not supposed to act. Like in their free time, when they go and they read the speech or something. Yeah. They're probably paid to say that. And we actually saw that with Greta Thunberg. I think it was like by accident, like someone from her Twitter, like this was a major controversy. They gave like an Indian actor what to say about an event, like a protest in India, and it was like a script on what he was supposed to say. And people got really upset about it because it was like foreign interference in Indian problems. And it's like, yeah, well. Thank you for the BRL. What is BRL? Is that Brazilian? So cool. I never had Brazilian before. And I think your logo is kind of problematic, your avatar. Americans have negative birth rate, yet housing prices increases. Yeah, it doesn't make sense, does it? I mean, think about it, right? Like, it's logical. Like, if the previous generation had X number of houses, and the new generation is smaller than the previous, then the number of houses remains the same, plus extra that are built, which means that the price should go down. Like, there will be more housing than there is demand. Which is pretty much what's happening in Romania. Like, this is why housing in Romania are so cheap. Because, like, a lot of people have moved out of the country. The birth rates are low. So housing is dirt cheap. Because, like, there's more houses than there are people. Like, if you want to sell a house, you have difficulty finding a buyer. So you constantly lower the price. But that's what happens in a normal society. So if the housing price goes up, then, well, something is done by the politicians. They're to blame. Yes, foreigners are buying them. Yes, absolutely. I'm trying not to say this outright. But, like, I think in Romania it's actually illegal for a non-Romanian to buy a house. Now, this was when I did law school. I don't know if the law has changed. But this is so sensible, honestly. Like, if you're not a Romanian citizen, you can't buy a house. You can rent one, but you can't buy it. And honestly, this actually makes a lot of sense. Like, why should... Because what happens is, right? Like, what happens is, like, you have a foreign investor who's got some money to spend, right? So he buys property in Romania. He doesn't rent it or anything like that, but he just waits for the housing price to go up. And when the housing price is up, he sells it. Right? So he just flips the market. And this happens a lot in London. Like, there's a lot of people from Qatar which do this. So they buy entire apartment buildings in London. And they just sit on them, waiting. It's almost like it's an NFT, right? They just wait for the price to go up so that they can sell it. And, it's fine when you do it with other things, like you do it with silver or gold or whatever. But when you do it with property, and there's people that want to live there, yeah, it's not so good. It's not so good, chat. There's another law in Romania that if you have land and you don't use it, so if you have agricultural land and you don't use it for, I think it's like 5 or 10 years, the government takes it away from you. And this is to incentivize people to use the land. And I would say it should be the same with property. Like, if you have a house and you just hold it like that, empty, and you're not living there, no one is living there, you're not renting or anything, there should be a punishment for that. I don't think the government should take the house away from you, but there should be like a higher tax or some shit to incentivize people to use that space. Yeah, non-fungible buildings, exactly. Are there legal caps on how much a market one can own? Like, you can't open more than 30% of all real estate? I don't know about that. At least not here, I think. But I think they wanted to put a stop to how much real estate hedge funds can buy. Which, I don't know. I mean, it's... Yeah, sure, whatever. I don't think that's really the problem. In one way, like, you wouldn't want one hedge fund to own all the buildings in the city, or a big chunk of the buildings in the city. Because then they can do price gouging. They can do a lot of nasty stuff. So I wouldn't like that. But Yeah, I mean, if there's different companies that own housing, is fine. That's theft. Yeah, well, there is that argument, but this is why I'm also a leftist. I'm not a complete right winger. Like there are some things that are for the good of the community, and I think like for the good of the community is like if a person owns 3 or 4 housings, and he just holds them, right, in order to flip the market. I think that's a really negative impact on the community. Yeah, sure, it's his property, but like if he doesn't sell them and he doesn't rent them and no one lives in them, that's a problem. And it's the same, like we already do this with land. Like in Romania, there's already a law. Like if you have agricultural land, and even if it's yours, like you're supposed to plant something on it. Like whatever you do, just plant something on it. Because if you don't plant something on it, the government takes it away. And well, we make the argument, well, that's theft as well. It's like, yeah, sure, but like if everyone did it, then people would starve. So why should anyone tell you what you can do with your property? Man, they're like, you have no idea just how many regulations are what you can and can't do with your property. I mean, the book is this thick. I wish I could have my webcam open so I can show you how thick the book is regarding to what you can and can't do with your property. In fact, like, again, you need to take into account that I'm talking about Europe, right? I'm not talking about America, but in Europe, for example, here, you're not allowed to burn your leaves if you want to. Like, if you have all your leaves and you set fire to them, the fire department appears and gives you a fine. And this is just one small example. Like, there are so many things you're not allowed to do, even if it's your property. Even, like, setting fire to something. Like, if I set fire to a book, I mean, technically, it's illegal. In reality, like, no one will do anything, right? But if I set fire to a book, that's a hazard, and I would get a fine. It's ridiculous. But, like, I'm trying to say that in Europe, like, the ideology of the ANCAP doesn't exist. You do own a house? Well, yeah, okay, but, like, this wouldn't affect people who own a house. It wouldn't even affect people who own 2 houses. And it wouldn't affect people who own 10 houses. But, like, if you have a house, either have a relative live there, or you live there, or rent it. But, like, just holding a house empty, that's not a good thing. Because the property value will explode, right? So, like, flipping the market when it comes to essential goods like houses, I don't like it. Whatever. It's literally theft. Yes, it is. Deal with it. What you gonna do? Are you gonna do the thing? No, you're not going to do the thing. Then shut the fuck up. And not to mention, you live in Sweden and you talk about theft. How much taxes do you pay to your government in Sweden? You can go in your backyard and blast your AR-15. Oh my god. I think if you did that here, it would be a crime. Like, you would go to prison. Assuming, like, you would... So, first of all, you wouldn't have an AR-15. But secondly, like, if you have a gun, which is very difficult to get. If you were to go in your backyard and fire your gun, yeah, that's a prison sentence. How do you prevent the government from abusing that power? I don't know. I mean, how would it abuse it? I don't really see how. Like, just... Again, like, my idea wasn't that the government takes the house away from you. It would just raise the taxes on it. Whatever. Russians are sending nuclear planes into Swedish airspace. Yeah, I saw the saber rattling. But hey, Abdi, didn't you want this? Isn't this what you wanted? I remember when the conflict was cold. And I was like, oh, well, it's not a good idea for, Ukraine to piss off Russia and blah, blah, blah. And you were like, no, let's have conflict. Yes, come on. Well, congratulations, Abdi. You got the conflict you wanted. And now it's like, oh, my God, well, the nuclear Russian plane is flying over my country. And, well, yes, and? Get some Swedish nuclear planes to fly over their country. I don't fucking know. I'm not blaming you, but, like, I'm just pointing out, because obviously, regardless of what you thought about the issue, things wouldn't have changed. But, like, it's what I was saying. It's like, it's not a good idea. Like, no one wants a nuclear conflict. No one wanted Ukraine to have to deal with this shit. But it is what it is, you know? Like, now it's done. Okay, Abdi, enjoy it. I mean, it's part of what you wanted. It's the DLC. You know, the main event is in Ukraine, but like Russian nuclear planes flying over Sweden, that's the DLC. That's the extra. It is saber rattling, yes. But also take into account, it only takes a small incident. Like, remember when a Russian plane flew over Turkey and Turkey shot it down? Do you guys remember that? Imagine if it happened in Sweden. Now, I don't know what happens if a plane carrying a nuclear warhead gets shot down. I have absolutely no fucking idea. I'm pretty sure, like, someone will say that's okay, I guess. Do you want to risk it? I don't know. But, like, it is something that's not desirable. Because, again, it can happen, you know? Like, Sweden can say, oh, bogey. And then it's like, oh, shit. Is that a nuclear blast? I don't know. I'm not a physicist. The space of countries is bigger than the country itself. Taiwan airspace and blah, blah, blah. It's like, dude, it doesn't matter. It's just like the... You know, I'm actually curious, though. Like, if Russia were to nuke something, and then they would say, oops, we loaded the wrong missile. Would people believe it? It's like, we loaded the wrong... Let me show you something about an interesting modern delivery of nukes. So, people know that nukes can be delivered by plane. People know that nukes can be delivered by submarine. People know that the nuke can be delivered by intercontinental missile. But I think this is also from the Russians. Yeah. Look at this. Tell me it's not the most harrowing thing that you have ever seen in your life. Okay, I'm going to lower the dramatic music because I don't want copyright. I don't know who fired this, if it's the Russians or the Americans. But I just want you to look at this. Yeah, they don't look like Russians. It's probably the US. But, like, I don't think that Russia doesn't have access to this technology. What, you didn't hear it? Alright, fine. I'll raise the volume a little bit. Let's look at this. It's propaganda. I mean, it is probably propaganda, but, like, the delivery system is sound. Like, I don't see a problem with delivering a missile like that. You just put it in an artillery gun and you fire it. It's edited. Okay, fine. That's not the point. The point is that you can use an artillery gun in order to fire a nuke. That's my point. So, you know, like, people are like, oh, well, what the delivery? You can deliver it like that. And it can't be intercepted. So, I want this, okay, yeah. Again, if the government shoots it down and the plane is carrying a nuclear warhead, Abdi, what do you think happens? Now, I'll tell you something. I have no idea what it happens. Like, I'm pretty sure someone in the chat will say, oh, well, they have safety again. Okay. They probably do. What if it turns into a dirty bomb, though? Because, like, is it the nuclear missile loaded with radioactive isotopes and stuff? And it's like, when they're exposed in the air, you know, whatever. You can, but you shouldn't. A nuke has to be intelligent to activate. Doesn't work on impact. Why can't you modify it so that it doesn't have to be intelligent? I mean, you can tinker with it, I assume. Yeah, cruise missiles can carry them as well. People say it's not gonna explode. How the fuck do you know? I don't think, like, in the history of warfare has a plane carrying a nuke ever been shot down up till now. So it's not radioactive until it is detonated, I see. I don't want to use my real name. Have fun clearing out the dud nuclear bomb. Yeah, exactly. Like, even if you know it's safe, imagine you're the guy that has to go there and clean up the dud. Imagine if you can't find the dud. That would be even more interesting. Like, you shoot down the plane, and you know that the plane was carrying a nuclear weapon, and you can't find it. It's like, where is it? We don't know. That would be the worst. Planes with nukes have crashed before? I didn't know that. That's... Imagine you're the pilot, and you catapult yourself, and you know the plane is carrying a nuclear load. And you're like, please don't explode, please don't explode, please don't explode. It happens a lot. I don't think it happens that often. Yeah. Anyway, right, I'm going to go take a pee, and I'm coming back in a bit. Just give me a second. We're back. So anyway, let's stop talking about nukes, because if you want to talk about nukes, open the fucking television. I'm pretty sure. Like, I was going downstairs a couple of days ago, and my wife was listening to the news, and it was like, what do you do in case of a nuclear accident? What if Russia tries to nuke Romania? And I'm like, my fucking god, are these people selling anything else besides fear porn? Like, anything. Just anything. No, absolutely not. And of course, you know, my wife, traumatized. She was like sitting there in a blanket wrapped around with her eyes bulging and looking scared at the man at the television telling her how to duck and cover in case of a nuclear attack. And she's like, oh, but what do we do if there's a nuclear attack? And I'm like, you take some iodine pills. Pray for the best. It's like, what fucking question is that? Like, wait, what do you do? Yeah, stop, drop, and roll. It's like such a fucking dumb question. I guess it's like people think that there is something that can be done. Like, what do you do? I don't know. You're kind of fucked at that point. Yeah, like, well, what do you do? So it's the same question like asking, what do you do if a tsunami is coming towards you? Well, I don't know. Go for high ground. What can you do? It's just like, yeah, IKEA furniture. You get over it. No, like, unironically, like the thing you do in the case of a nuclear attack, I'll tell you what you do, all right? It depends where you are. Like, depending where you are, it either increases or lowers your opportunity of doing something. Like, if you're not in the blast zone, then you don't do anything. Then it's probably not a that bad way to go, to be honest, because it's over in an instant. So, now apparently, like, scientists have said that if you're like in the blast zone, like, you die before your brain even acknowledges that it's happening. So it's probably not that bad a way to go. Now, if you are outside of the blast zone, but you're still in you're kind of fucked area. Well, you know, the wind coming from the explosion is going to fuck things up. So, yeah, get away from the windows. Like, if you see it in the distance, get away from the windows, because those are probably going to crack, and you might get accidentally hit by the window, which turns into shrapnel. Make sure that, like, don't try to leave your house. Like, let's say you just see the explosion in the distance, right? Now, if you see it in the distance, chances are you're going to feel it. So you're going to hear a loud boom, and then you're going to feel like the entire house shaking like an earthquake. And then the blast comes in, and the blast is going to fuck everything up. So what you want to do is go under a door. Literally, like if it's an earthquake. Go under a door and stay there, because it's the most secure place in the house. And pray that your house manages to survive, right? Like, you want to be far away to the point where, you know, the blast is just going to do a little bit of damage. That's it. That's literally all you can do. After that, after you did that, you need to cover the windows if they broke. You know, you need to, like, put something in front of them. It's not going to help a lot, but it's still better than nothing. And then the question is, like, can you leave or not? Like, do you have another place to go? If you have another place to go, yeah, that's the time to fucking go. If you don't have another place to go, then you're kind of fucked. So what you want to do is, like, okay, well, you're getting radiated. That's it. Take some iodine pill. Or yes, you can hide in a freezer. That's another opportunity. I saw it in the movies. It works. And when you go outside, you double mask. Yeah. Also avoid going outside. I forgot to mention, but like that's such a stupid thing. Like, the radiation lasts for months. Well, actually, the radiation lasts for years, but like for months is at its most deadly. So you're like, okay, don't go outside, but you need to do grocery shopping. So I'm telling you what's going to happen. People are going to continue their normal lives and get cancer. That's what is going to happen. And not everyone, by the way, so you just pray that your body is strong enough to take it. But yeah, either than that, just make sure that there's nothing from outside coming in. Like, make sure your windows are closed. Make sure that if your windows are broken, you replace them as soon as possible. Make sure that you cover them with something if you don't have a possibility to replace them. If you have a basement or a bunker, it would be a good idea to start living there for a while. And when you go out, make sure that you buy some clothes that cover most of your skin. And then when you go back inside, you throw away the clothes. I don't know how often you can do that, though, considering... but, like, the reason is that there's a lot of radioactive dust in the area, and while you're going to get radiated anyway, the dust is just going to make it worse. Oh, and avoid drinking tap water. Like, drink bottled water. There you go. Now, fucking, I did exactly what the newsman should have said, instead of putting fear. Are nukes vegan? No, but apparently they might be environmental friendly because they fight against global warming. Unironically, nuclear winter is going to make the global warming go away. Basement neckbeard will inherit the earth. Yeah, you know, like, the thing is, I keep hearing, like, people give all these suggestions that are completely unreasonable. It's like, okay, well, if there's a nuke, just stay indoors. It's like, okay, you can stay indoors, like, that's fine. But for how long? Like, you need to go shopping, right? You need to go to the grocery store. Like, people still have to go to work. And by the way, you might say, well, like they're no, like if they're doing an essential job, like if they're firemen, if they're doctors, if they're police officers, if they're running the stores, like they're still going to go to work. It's really fucked. Again, like if you have money, obviously you're going to fuck off. If you don't have money, you're going to suffer. That's literally what it is. Yeah, you think global warming is bad? Yeah, wait until the nuclear winter. Safety blanket, yeah. What if the indoors no longer exist? Well, you go to a family member if you can. If not, you're fucked. This is why people try to avoid this scenario. Last time I checked, during the Cold War, like nuclear war was bad. That's how I grew up. It was considered to be a bad thing. It wasn't desirable. But now you have people like Abdi Muhammad. It's like, yay, World War III, rah, rah, rah. And I'm like, oh, Jesus fucking Christ, why? You should have rice, beans, and water for 2-3 months. Man, like, think about it this way. If you actually get hit by a nuke, there's going to be the EMP, which fries all the electronics. So cars don't work, your cell phone doesn't work, your TV doesn't work, your radio doesn't work. Like you're in your house, and hopefully you're not during winter, because during winter your heating won't work. Oh! I just realized. Hold on. Like if it's a house like mine, your stove won't work. Your oven won't work. Like that, all your appliance, everything stops working. There is no way you can stay in house for 3 months. Like, my God, it's so bad. Like the more I think about it, the worse it gets. Yeah, gas oven can work. But it's pretty much like the Stone Age, yeah, absolutely. Like it's like the Stone Age. You can't call anyone, so the phone lines don't work, the internet won't work. Anything that's electrical in your house, literally everything, will stop working. And on top of that, your car doesn't work. I don't even know if the railways would work. Like you wouldn't even be able to get out of the fucking city. I mean, it's just like unimaginably bad. And it's probably be unimaginably bad for a couple of years. I mean, it's like, it's not the blast that's the only dangerous thing. Like, even if you're outside the blast zone, like the very fact that you're being sent back to the Stone Age, like think about it this way, you won't be able to get food if you're in the city. Like the stores are going to have some food, but then you go into the stores and, people buy all the stuff and there's no more trucks to deliver more food. Because the trucks are broken, like the EMP fried the trucks. So the supply lines are complete. Oh my God, like it's actually even worse the more I think about it, right? So you might say, well, hold on a little bit. I have a friend that lives in the countryside and I'm going to get food from them. And you realize, well, I can't reach them anyway, right? Because you can't phone them. You can't drive to them. You can't leave your town. Right? And you might say, well, okay, hold on. I'm a farmer and I'm able to grow crops. It's like, okay, but now you can't buy fertilizer. You can't buy any tools. Any sort of modern equipment is fried. So if you have like a tractor, if you have, anything besides like medieval shit is fried. So you can't plant either, even if you're a prepper and you're like, oh, well, I managed to have like my own field and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, and I'm not even talking about the people who are sick and they're all over the place. And then there's people who are starving and they're going to form gangs and try to steal shit from others. I mean, it's a horror, honestly. I don't even, like, the only way I can imagine that the Japanese managed to go through that is that the technology wasn't at the level we have today. The thing with technology is the more advanced it gets, the more people are reliant on it. The hospitals won't work. Oh, fuck. Oh, my God. Like, the more I think about it, the worse. So, modern doctors rely on technology in order to put diagnostics, right? Because, like, okay, you have the patient coming in, and you send them to an x-ray, you send them to an ultrasound, like, you do an endoscopy, like, you do diagnostics on the patients, right? Using high-tech machines. But, like, without that, doctors don't know how to do their trade. Like literally, you can have a patient coming in, and if he might have a broken leg or something, but without an X-ray, the surgeon doesn't want to operate. Oh my fucking god! Like even then, hold on. Like the surgeon doesn't operate in the classic sense anymore. They also use gadgets. Like I mean, they use laparoscopy and other. Yeah, I mean, no, you're completely fucked. You're utterly fucked if that happens. Like even if you're outside the blast zone, if you're within the EMP area, you're fucked. Anything made after the 70s won't work. Yeah, it's Turkey shot down one Russian plane and the Russians stopped fucking around with them. Yeah, but that wasn't. The thing with Sweden is like they only went for like 1 minute to violate their airspace, so it is saber rattling. Like Sweden wouldn't even have time, to react and shoot down that plane because it was just for 1 minute. And Russia, yeah, like you got a point. Russia didn't stop messing with Turkey. If I'm not mistaken, like Russian planes still fly really close to NATO planes in the open sea just to fuck with them. But I don't. Why am I talking about this depressing stuff? Academy promises members, blah blah blah. So the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Science will determine appropriate action against Will Smith. I don't understand, like, how. First of all, like, from what I get, like, charges weren't filed. So if Chris Rock isn't complaining, why is the Academy wanting to do something? And it's like, determine appropriate action. Like, what action are you determining? Like, look at this. The process will take a few weeks. You have it on camera. You know what happened. Like, why will it take a few weeks? It's not like it's a murder mystery and we don't know what happened. It's not like it happened behind closed doors and people are trying to piece together, like, who's to blame. No, it's literally everything is on camera. Like, the guy made a horrible joke, I understand. Like what the progressives told me, that the joke was beyond the pale. And Will Smith went there and slap. What do you need to talk about? Like, what is there to discuss? They will make Will Smith a star. I think for a while, he's kind of toxic. And, like, that's the thing which really baffles my brain. The joke was mediocre as well. Like, it wasn't even like a edgy joke or something like that. He didn't call her a woman of low moral fiber. And from what I understand, like, it's not even his wife at this point. Like, the way they described it is that they're in a lived partnership or some shit like that. Like, they don't consider themselves in like, kind of like an open relationship. Right? Because people go like, oh, well, you need to defend your woman. I mean, okay, but like, is it? Is it his woman? I don't know. It's just like so weird, man. It's so weird. And again, like, the joke wasn't about her promiscuity or something. It was just about her hairstyle. And it's like, okay. And not only that, they're actors, right? Like, that's part of their job. They go there in order to get an Oscar, get an award, and they know they're going to be roasted. Like, at every single Oscar, there's a comedian that roasts the actors. Like, if you can't take that shit, don't go there. No one is forcing you. But, like, you know what you're going into. You know what you're signing up for. It's kind of like going to boxing and then bitching that you're getting hit. Pretty much like that. Like, the moment you step in the ring, you know that it's a contact sport. Like, that's the rules of the game. I'm going to take a few knuckles. Will Smith and Prince Harry should talk to each other. I am so shocked. Honestly, like, this is the most shocking development, that Harry and Merkel didn't inject themselves into this conversation. Like, I'm literally shocked that this didn't happen. Like, how did Hari miss this opportunity? Well, actually, not how did Hari, because like that would assume he is calling any shots. How did Merkel not drag Hari in order to inject themselves into this controversy and make it about them somehow? I'm really surprised. Is Will Smith being courted by Scientology? I heard something from Uni that this is the case, but I don't know. Hello, subject to change. Give it time. I mean, yeah, it can still happen. It's been just 2 days. That is correct. Why should we assume at this point? I think it's fake. No, I don't think it's fake. I'm 100% sure that it's real. If it was fake, there's just so many other things they could have done. I think like fake would have been getting like some random nobody and say a racist joke towards Will Smith, and then like everyone would agree that what he did is good, right? The right wingers would look evil for defending it. So like they would have done with that. They could also have gone with like 2 men kissing or something like that, you know, like 2 straight people, you know, saying, oh, we're coming out of the closet. I mean, there's just so much other things that they would have done. And again, like, I don't see why Will Smith would agree with this. Because it can ruin his career if people believe. Think about it this way. What was his name? Logan Paul, right? Like, Logan Paul on YouTube 100% faked the forest thing in Japan, right? Like, he did on a live stream and, oh my god, they found a dead body. It was 100% fake. And there's, like, so many ways you can point to that. But it almost ruined his career. I mean, it got his channel shut down. It got a AdSense apocalypse on YouTube. It put him in really bad waters. It's like, no, why would you do things like this? It doesn't make sense. Now, do I think that just because it happened, Hollywood isn't trying to take advantage of it? Like, of course they're trying to take advantage of it. They're doing their utmost best in order to profiteer from this. But I don't think it was fake. His career will be fine. Right now, from what I can see, like, the poll is 50-50. So even among left-wingers, like 50% of people are siding with him, but like 50% of people aren't. So while I don't think he's going to have his career over, I do think that for a while he might not get any new movies or business deals. Like, it's going to take a while for him to recover. He did apologize. Oh wow, like, yeah, apology in the United States. Oh, that's such a big thing. I'm pretty sure everyone believes it now. It must have changed the mind of a lot of people. You know, there were so many people that were against him, but now that he apologized, they're like, oh well, let's give him another shot. Now, I never understand. It's like, words are violence. Okay. So if words are violence, why can't you use words back? Like, here's the thing. He gets a joke from Chris Rock. Why couldn't he wait until he goes on the podium to get his fucking Oscar? And then he can use that opportunity to go back at Chris Rock and say, look, you know, it wasn't fair that he went after my wife. Like, if you want to go after me, fine. But, like, don't go after my family. Blah, blah, blah. You know, like, he could have done that. That would have hurted Chris Rock a lot more, by the way. Like, if he went there and called Chris Rock a misogynist or something, or making fun, it's like, hey, you know, you're a comedian, you shouldn't make fun of people who have actual problems, like, you know, hair loss is a big issue, blah, blah, blah. He could have done that. By the way, apparently the Oscars were sponsored by Pfizer, and people say that Pfizer is actually coming up with a drug to fix hair loss. Which, it's like, oh my god, it's a conspiracy theory. No, it's just like a coincidence this time, but it's funny, nonetheless. Very interesting that Pfizer keeps sponsoring things, don't you think? Especially when you don't have a choice but to take some of their products. Like, what are you going to do? So why is Pfizer sponsoring stuff like the Oscars? Begs the question. More interestingly, like, I didn't even know that they're sponsoring it. Did you know? Interesting. Does Pfizer have a lot of competition? Like if you did pills? Actually, a different question. Hold on, a different question. If you need pills, do you really go pick and choose which company does the pill come from? Hmm. It's almost like, do you want some money? Yes. Then don't talk shit about us. Just talk positive about us. If you keep wanting the money, of course. To me, it sounds more like that. I don't understand like the concept of advertising pills. I'm sorry, I don't get it. It's like you take pills when you're sick because you don't have a choice. Like a sick person isn't going to say, no, I'm going to suffer more. No, they're going to take pills, right? And usually when you take the pills, you don't look at, oh, well, I want this brand of... No, you just go to the doctor and go to the pharmacy and whatever brand is available, right? Like most of the time, you don't even know what brand you're taking. You're just taking pills. Like if you need a coughing syrup, you don't go like, oh, can I have the Pfizer one, please? It's like, you just take it, right? So I don't understand like the advertisement. Like what's the point? Usually they go to the doctor though, like they do this, and in my country there was a big scandal. Apparently it was illegal, but you have doctors that would take money from a company, from a pharmaceutical company, and then they would recommend drugs from that company only. So they got sued, and the doctors lost. So what the pharmaceutical companies do now? Sorry about that. What pharmaceutical companies do now? It's like, okay, let's say Pfizer. Everyone likes Pfizer. They go to the doctor and they go like, okay, so we're having this congress, like this medical congress. It's in Vienna. Do you want to come? And the doctor goes like, oh, sure, why not? So they pay for the ticket, they pay for the hotel, they pay for everything. And usually the conference lasts for like 1 hour, 2 hours. And after that, the doctor gets to stay in Vienna for a weekend. And guess which pills he's going to push? Now, of course, he can push other pills, but like next year there might be another conference and he might not get invited. Hello, Athena. We're talking about medicine. Anyway, right. That was happening in the US as well. It's standard business practice. Like it's not... And this is also what video game developers do. They go to journalists and it's like, hey, don't you want to come to Paris to play the new Guitar Hero? Oh, you do? Oh, that's great. So it's going to be this weekend. You can come over to our headquarters and you can play Guitar Hero. And they pay for the plane ticket. They pay for the hotel accommodation. They pay for the hookers. And then they go to Paris. And at Paris, they play the game. And then they have a weekend off, a vacation. Paid vacation. Guess which game they're going to push in their publication? I'm not buying my wife a chicken. My wife doesn't even want a chicken anymore. I actually spoke with my neighbor, and I told my neighbor, I shamed my wife in front of my neighbor. I literally shamed her. And I was like, do you know what my wife wants to do? It's like, what? Buy chickens. And my neighbor goes like, no, don't buy chickens. They're noisy and they're smelly. I had chickens. They're horrible. And I looked at my wife, with that look like I fucking told you so. You see? You are going to cause a panic. I'm pretty sure that, because I knew what neighbor to shame her in front of, because now probably the entire neighborhood is talking about her. And I, like, if she ever gets chickens, like, let's say I'm sick, I'm in a coma, and she gets chicken, I'm going to talk to the neighbors. Tell them when I get out of the coma, I'll tell them how to poison the chickens. Don't fuck with me. Like, we're in a neighborhood. It's a community. You respect other people. Eggs are yum. Yes, eggs are very yum. Literally across the road from us, there are farmers selling eggs. Very delicious. I 100% agree with you. My wife makes a really good omelet. If you were in Yash, in my town, I would invite you over. Chicken fun. Thank you, Conspiracy Cat. I see what the cat wants to do. The cat wants the chickens for itself. Damn, dude. Yeah, tactical shaming, exactly. It's how you control women. when they don't listen to reason. They listen to peer pressure. You know how you poison the chicken? You put the alcohol in their drink. I did that when I was a kid. My grandfather was very upset. Don't do it, by the way. Horrible. I'm sounding particular Romanian today. Yeah, well, it's a harsh place. You live in a very misogynistic neighborhood? Fun fact, the person I told this to, the neighbor, was a woman. Why do you think I selectively chosen that particular person? It's not about like the fact that I'm adverse to raising chickens or that Romanians don't want to raise chickens. It's just that it's a neighborhood where it would be very improper. The houses are very close one to another. And there's literally no place where you could put the chickens that wouldn't bother the neighbors. So, like, if I were to have it, the smell would go to the neighbor, the sound would go to the neighbor. Like, they would hate it. And on top of that, there's like 5 stray cats. It's no, absolutely not. Hello, Amok. Probably the oldest woman in the neighborhood. You shamed your wife in front. Of course. I love the fact that you know. Damn it. I still haven't talked about the nukes, but I'm so freaking tired. I'm sorry, chat. I'm failing you. I don't think I can talk about... no, sorry. I talked about the nukes. I don't think I can talk about the Patreon TOS today. Probably going to talk about it tomorrow. Tell your wife is irresponsible to bring a chicken into a world that could be nuked. No, actually, that's perfectly responsible because chickens get cold anyway, so... it's part of the process. But like, yeah, exactly. Get a goat. So there's a guy here who planted some very expensive trees. Apollonia, I think. Let me check the name of the tree. It's actually very expensive when I looked at it. Like it's very quality wood. Paulownia trees, yes, Paulownia tree. I think this is the one. Hold on. Yeah. So I got a neighbor who planted some of these, right? And they're very expensive. Now the thing is, if I were to get a goat, like let's say my wife wants a goat, because fuck you, that's why, right? And the trees right now, they're very small because they're just planted. Like, imagine if the goat would walk up to the neighbor and start destroying the trees. Like, I would be in a load of shit. I don't even think I would be able to pay for them. So it's like, yeah, like exactly. Like, okay, so I'm okay with the chickens. What if my wife wants a goat next? Like, you can't give in to these things. You need to learn how to say no. My goat goes by the pronouns they. They, them. Polonium tree, yeah. And other people said, like, buy ducks. The problem with ducks is that they destroy everything. I mean, ducks are probably a lot more destructive than chickens. So, no, absolutely not. But I don't understand why the chat is so obsessed with this idea. It's like, when I posted on Twitter, I thought that, oh, it's going to be a nice joke. It's like, look how ridiculous people are. But, like, everyone is like, oh, yeah, you need to get chickens. It's just like very bizarre. I don't know. Okay. Why don't I get a monkey though? You know, like if we're going to just buy stuff, like why not a monkey? If I'm not mistaken, monkeys are illegal. The reason for it is that they know how to play with the gas stove. Like unironically, there have been explosions because like people had a pet monkey, and they went into the kitchen, and then they can mimic human behavior because like they see humans operate the stove. And they would turn the gas on and then, like, not turn it off. And then the person would come home and open the light and... So they they became illegal to own monkeys. Get a normal pet. I actually have cats. Like, I'm trying to breed cats. So that's fine. I have only one female cat. And there's a breeder that I know. And he's trying to get me licensed. and I take the cat to him when the cat is in heat. With Bengals, you're supposed to take it 3 times every 2 years. Any more than that, and they have complications. So it's like she had 2 sets of kittens last year, and I'm probably going to have another one probably by November. I try to get kittens around Christmas, not only because they sell well, but also because the cat is busy with the kittens upstairs and she leaves the Christmas tree alone, which is a very good arrangement for me. Make super chats? Oh, make super cats. Yeah, I'll probably keep the stream and that. If someone gives me a super chat, I'll keep the stream. There you go. I'm blackmailing chat. Look at me. But I did create one breed that was interesting. Let me show you what I did. It wasn't my cat though, but I suggested it to the breeder and he tried it out just for the lulz. Scottish Fold. Okay, so the Scottish Fold looks like this, and it's a sickly cat, by the way. It's really cute and adorable, but the problem is that because of the snout, the way it is, it's going to get its nose clogged. It's going to get a lot of eye problems, and even worse, it's got like a lot of breathing issues and lung issues. So you know, it's a cute cat, but it's getting a lot of health problems. And I was like, what happens if you mix it with a Bengal? Like, will it get some of the problems alleviated? And I don't know if it does or not, but like the result was something like this. And I gotta say, it was absolutely fucking adorable. Like, my opinion is that this should actually be registered as a breed. But I asked like what the process entails, and it's actually very complicated. Like, you would need to keep pumping up several of these for several generations before you can license it. The main problem though was that 3 of the kittens looked like Bengals, and only 1 kitten looked like this. So you require a lot of effort in order to actually license this breed. But like if you could pull it off, you would make a lot of money. I mean, I think a lot of people would want something like this. So like one of the problems with the first, the Scottish Fold is that it's very lazy, it's bored. This one is hyperactive, it's very energetic, and I don't think it has any of the eye problems. So there you go. You know, I actually did something interesting. I cured the breed. Thank you for the cat furniture, and the cat did return. Yes. It was 2 days ago, I believe. And one of my neighbors called and said that the cat is in her yard. And when I went there, it ran away. But, you know, I called it and eventually it came back. So it was a very touching moment. Now, when it did came back, for 2 days, it kept sticking to us, both to me and my wife. It was very affectionate. It realized what it done. And today I saw it at the door wanting out again. I'm like, cat, you're fucking insane. The problem is, like, the neighborhood isn't that dangerous, but she probably gets beaten by all the other cats. And if that's not enough, there was very low temperatures during these couple of nights. And I'm really glad I found it, because next Sunday, I hear that the temperature is going to go to minus. And the thing is, like, cats can survive the cold, but if they're used to being indoors, their fur adjusts to it. So if they go outside, all of a sudden they're going to probably get sick, if not even die. So save the stream, save the world. Thank you, Lovia. Been listening to you since Gamergate. Wow, that's a long time, man. Like I even forgot about Gamergate, to be honest. It's kind of like a thing that, you know, like for a while it was like this huge thing, and I think the reason Gamergate was such a big thing, number one, you had the left wingers and right wingers uniting for the first time. Like Tumblr and 4chan worked hand in hand. But secondly, the reason it got so popular was that on the internet, controversies come and go, but Gamergate stood for like 6-7 months. I mean, it was a controversy that just didn't go away. Like, people really, really hated video game journalists. And it's why even today you have video game journalists talk about Gamergate like it's this horrible thing. Apparently, in the chat, Abdi Muhammad and Forgotten Century are having a debate over geopolitics than having the border dispute. I really don't, you know, like one of the most boring subjects, I would say, is to talk about geopolitics. Like, even the pandemic, like if you talked about the pandemic, even that would have been a more productive conversation. Because at least with the pandemic, you know, with enough people, you could have influenced things. Like, for example, in Romania, you know, we never had, like, vaccine mandates and stuff. Because, like, the population just didn't want it. So, you can actually influence. But, like, the thing with, like, the conflict in Ukraine and Russia, it's like, that's not something that the public has a say in it. It's literally being decided by the powers that be, as they love to say it. And there's nothing you can do about it. It's like, who cares? Honestly, it's like, oh, well, I'm anti-right. Okay, good. But like, the sanctions, for example, right? Like the sanctions in my country. The price of gas is skyrocketing. Let's say, you know, 80% of the public wouldn't like it. So what? So what? Because the sanctions are being imposed, like they're being dictated top down. By NATO, right? In other words, the United States. They're imposing and they're forcing the European Union to have the sanctions. If in Romania people wouldn't want, like, okay, so fucking what? Right? And even if you are like, oh, well, we don't want to go to war with it's like, you're in NATO. You don't get to decide that. Right? If one country gets attacked, it's an attack on all, and it's World War III. There's nothing you can do. So, like, that's my point. It's the most useless conversation ever. Like, I genuinely don't see a point in talking about this shit. Abdi Muhammad said Russian planes don't fly over Turkey. It's like, okay, who cares if they do? Who cares if they don't? It's literally irrelevant. Early Gamergate was epic. It was nice to see gamers fighting back. Yeah, like that was the thing. Like, gaming was uniting everyone, which is why they had to destroy the gaming identity. They literally wrote articles saying, like, gamers are dead, gamers are over. In other words, the gaming identity was the problem. And if you look at E3 and you look at Ubisoft, like, they do their best to avoid the word gamer. They say consumers, they say players, they say anything besides gamers. And it's on purpose. The question is, will anyone honor NATO agreement? Absolutely. Here's the thing. Let's say that Russia goes into Poland or something like that, you know? All the Eastern European nations will fight back. Like, you would have Romania, you'd have Hungary, you have Turkey. Like, even if NATO, like, there are some NATO members that, like, refuse. All the Eastern European states would ally, because at least the V4. And then it would be the interest of the other countries to help. Like, I just don't see a scenario where it wouldn't happen. Because the thing is, like, if Russia were to go into Poland, right? All the other neighboring countries to Poland would be like, well, we're next. So let's do our best now rather than be picked up one by one. So that's why, you know, like, and if it happens, then other countries like Germany, for example, would be like, okay, well, if those countries fall, then we're next. So let's help those countries. And I do think, like, it's a mutual interest thing for countries to help each other in case of what is it, Article 5? I think that's it. Watching from the beginning, but here's my lunch money. Well, thank you, L-Boy. You know, I didn't really get that many super chats. I was actually afraid that I might not fill the quota for today, but I did manage to get the $30. That's how much I want to make per stream, so I'm happy. V getting drafted in Dracula Squadrons. Yeah, I mean, the thing is, like, even if you don't get drafted, it's still bad. Like, if you're in the conflict zone, I mean. right? Because like, okay, let's say I don't get drafted, and what do? I sit in my home. Okay, well, bombs can fall over. The army can come and take this place. They can take down the power grid. I mean, if they take down the power grid, I'm kind of fucked. I can't literally cook anything because I'm on electricity. But even then, it's like, okay, well, if the water stops running or if the supply chains stop functioning, it's like, where will I get food from? You know? So it is bad. Like, even if you're not drafted. And in some conflicts, the soldiers are actually safer than the civilians. Not all the time, but like, there have been cases. I mean, think about it, right? Like, if you're a soldier and you sit in a trench or someplace that gives you some protection in a bunker, right? Well, you're more protected than the guy sitting in his apartment. Putin committed national suicide with the invasion. It's yeah, like it was a gamble and he lost. I don't know if it's like that bad. I mean, only time will tell. All these sanctions will take like 3 or 4 years until they take root. Um, the countermeasures that he did with moving the ruble into gold, like having a currency backed by gold and selling gas with the ruble, that's going to be interesting to see how it's like. The best thing out of it, though, is that a lot of this environmental nonsense hopefully will go away, and countries will now try to become energy independent because they realize it's like, oh shit, it's not good to be at the hand of dictators. We'll see how it goes. The only interesting thing, and this is what I noticed in this war, and a lot of people probably noticed it. Uh, See, in the United States, Marines don't want tanks. And I was like, why the fuck don't they want tanks? Are they stupid? And then you realize, wow, like tanks might actually become obsolete. And what I mean by this is that a javelin rocket is $100,000 and a tank is up to $10 million. Like, it's really not cost effective. Like, the the javelin rockets seem to have just destroyed tanks after tanks after tanks, and you're like, oh well. The only time tanks seem to be effective is if they're in the desert. But if you go in a city environment and you drive past buildings and past houses and stuff like that, like literally in every house there can be just one guy with a javelin rocket, and that's all it takes. And it's like, wow, holy shit. So yeah, like tanks are not as effective as they used to be. I mean, I'm pretty sure like a lot of generals and officers are looking at the conflict in Ukraine and they're like, that's not good. Regarding the tanks, I mean. Russia and Putin looks weak now. Time for a successor. But yeah, like a lot of people want a successor. What makes you think that the successor isn't going to be worse though? Like, why do people expect that the successor is definitely going to be someone more calm and rational? And like, you can get someone even worse. And not to mention, usually these things aren't called by one man. Like, I really hate this mythos of the nation that's being run by one man. Even Stalin didn't run Russia. It's usually a group of people, like a cabal, a circle of interest, an oligarchy. That's how it works. Russia has already won because the ruble is backed by gas, but the US dollar loses its Saudi oil backing. The petrodollar is a thing, but it's not just the only thing. I mean, the fiat is also it's the central banking, basically, like all the digital software and bullshit that banks use in order to do the transitions and stuff. Like think about it this way: the European Union, they don't have the euro dollar, but their currency still has value. So the US dollar will always have value simply because US citizens need to pay their taxes in US dollars. And secondly, like whenever you want American goods, like if you want to buy American military hardware or, American products, you need dollars. So it's not, I mean, yeah, technically it's going to be bad, don't get me wrong, but like it's not the end of the world. It's not as bad. And if I'm not mistaken, America still has gold, so they can actually transition to a gold economy. Alternatively, they can just have the digital dollar, which China has, and then, well, it's going to be really bad. Um, no, I don't think you can take out Russia. You know, like, this is another thing. Like, a lot of people watch movies, and they don't realize just how difficult taking a city is. Um, I mean, there have been conflicts in Georgia, for example, and they would find the building like I don't know, a large civil structure, like not the city hall, but like, let's say an office complex, right? And in that office complex, you have the parking lot, and you would have a group of people sitting in the parking lot, like a squad of soldiers, and that office building would be shelled for days, and the soldiers would be fine in the parking lot. So, like, it's very difficult to just, it's not like in the movies, is what I'm trying to say. I keep trying to find my words so that YouTube TOS doesn't get upset, even though I'm not breaking them, right? But yeah, like, actual war is very different than what people imagine. Yeah, and not to mention, like, even during the Cold War, there were people that said, "Oh, yeah, well, let's take out the enemy with the first strike." That doesn't work. I mean, Russia is the size of a continent, and they even have like the dead man switch, which is basically the idea that if the entire Russian command is taken out, then the nukes fire autonomously. So it's definitely not like the video games. Yes, that's what I wanted to say. Anyway, right. It's been a couple of hours. Thank you guys for watching this. I appreciate it, and thank you for the super chats. And I'll see you guys tomorrow.